The PSVR2 has been out for 3 years, and guys, I think it might be dead. Hello there everyone, it's Aidan here from Push Square, the channel where I talk all things PlayStation, and today I want to talk about the PSVR2. And that's right, it just passed its 3-year anniversary, which is, you wouldn't really know it because PlayStation hasn't said anything about it. Now, I have been a big supporter of the PSVR2. I think it's an incredible piece of kit. It launched back in February of 2023, of course, and we had some launch titles like Horizon Call of the Mountain. We had a bunch of PSVR2 adaptations or upgrades with games like Pistol Whip, and generally speaking, I think it was just leagues beyond the original PSVR 1 in terms of comfort, in terms of the actual visual experience. It was a much more lightweight design. The tracking was so much better, and the Sense controllers are really, really impressive too. And I have to say, I've been just so let down, to be honest, by how little support there seems to have been for this device in the years since. It's like they put all of this work into something like a really, really great device and then just went, nah. And it's a shame because I thought there were several times across the last 3 years where I've kind of thought maybe there's going to be the resurgence, because I mean the writing was kind of on the wall from the very beginning. I remember when Firewall Ultra came out, roughly around August time, the year that the PSVR 2 came out, and thinking like, that's a bit weird, like this game died and then they killed the studio and that was kind of it. And I was like, well, that was like one of the big showcase games that they kept advertising, or they kept putting in a lot of trailers for people to buy this, and it just wasn't very good, to be honest. I reviewed that game back at the time, and then all of a sudden they just weren't talking about it as much. They're just, maybe every now and again you would get this dump via tweets of like, here's a bunch of VR games that are coming to the PlayStation VR 2. And obviously we've seen some games, in the last year. For example, there was a VR version of Pools. We had the Thief VR game, which I wasn't a huge fan of, but that was a fairly high profile game as well. But really, like, the big point for me where I thought, this isn't going anywhere now, has been the last month or so. Because for one, we have Resident Evil 9, and Resident Evil 7 and Resident Evil 8 are some of the best VR games you can play on the platform, and console exclusive, like PSVR 2 exclusive. Yet here we are on the cusp of Resident Evil 9 coming out, just while I'm recording this, and there's no plans for a VR port. So it's not just a case of, it'll come down the line. It just doesn't sound like the interest is there internally. And we know that Sony has basically funded the VR ports of this, so that if it's not happening from Capcom, then that basically means Sony isn't interested either. But on top of that, we just had a state of play, and that was over 60 minutes of different games, and not a mention of the PSVR 2. Then comes its actual anniversary on the 22nd, again, not a mention again. And I think it's a really, really big shame, because there are some phenomenal experiences out there. Like I'm saying, Resident Evil 8, I loved Metro Awakening. I thought Metro Awakening was fantastic. And then you had Pavlov VR, just like really, really fun VR experiences. And I get that it's like a hard platform to sell, really. You're asking people to buy a £500 console, and then also on top of that pay for what was originally a $500 plus headset. And that is a hard sell. Here we have a device that basically requires you to have a dedicated space. It's looking for 2x2 meters, which is a big space. I basically have to play my PSVR 2 in my living room, and it's more or less the only place I can without hitting walls and stuff. And not everyone has that. That's like another big hurdle. On top of price is the actual space factor. And then obviously as well, VR isn't really for everyone, because a lot of people get motion sickness. I get motion sickness too, to be fair. Depends on the kind of game. You have to build up a bit of a tolerance. And I would say it's gotten leagues better than what it was. But there you have another thing that's just, some people, you're cutting out a lot of people with every additional factor of this. So am I surprised that it's went the way that it has? Not really, to be honest. I think from a sort of business standpoint, there was always going to be a depreciated or more of a niche audience with each of these products. But the problem is, what is the expectation for each of those? Because Sony releases the PlayStation Portal knowing that's going to be a niche product, yet that does really well within those ranges. Same goes for the likes of, you know, the PS5 Pro. They knew that going in with a £700 mid-gen upgrade was going to be a niche audience. The difference being is that if the PS5 Pro comes out, it's made, and it doesn't do well, does it make a difference to the people that bought it? Not really. Like, there's a little technical bump here on the PS5 Pro versions, but you know, there's plenty of games out there that are getting the benefit of it fairly naturally, to be honest. But the PSVR2, you buy that, you spend the money on the thing, and then where are the games? I'm not diminishing any of the people that are out there releasing games, because I think there are still great games out there, but the problem is you need the big games to get people to come in. You need a game like, when it launched, Horizon. That was a kind of system seller game, and I think all of us kind of expected PlayStation to leverage its IP going forward with that, like maybe a Last of Us experience, maybe a Spider-Man experience. There's plenty of different opportunities there for whether they're just experiences or actual games. I think there's a lot of opportunity there to just pull people in, yet Sony just never seemed too interested about it. And in the meantime, we've not really heard a word about some of its companies that actually do make VR games, like Firesprite. We haven't really heard what's going on there, and there's rumors that maybe it's a more traditional game. And I do feel sorry for the people that bought into this when the price was reduced. I thought that the pricing was actually really good. Like, paying £300 odd for that thing, that's an incredible piece of kit you're getting. You're getting the OLED screens, you're getting the haptics on the headset, you're getting the pinpoint tracking mechanics with the Sense controllers. I mean, you play a game like Kayak VR Mirage or Resident Evil 8, the visual fidelity is incredible. So I just again come to the point when we're hearing things about PlayStation are shutting down Blue Point Games, it just feels like Sony right now is kind of shedding talent in a way. And like I said, I understand the business side of things. It's not going to be the most profitable thing out there. It's not going to be like the thing that like people buy PlayStation for. And I think that was clear when we started seeing accessories like the PC port coming out. So now you can use it on there. But I just can't help but feel like it's a real shame, because for me it was one of like the big technological leaps people talk about. PS5 hasn't been that much of an upgrade. PSVR2 was. I mean, you play the original PSVR. VR is an incredible experience, but that thing, oh my god, the weight of the cable and the box setting it up was such a nuisance. And obviously the actual controllers and the like just really weren't made for decent enough tracking. It was very outdated technology. So this is just like, it feels like we're leaping into the future and we've got this fantastic, incredible piece of kit, but no, actually, we're not going to do anything about it. I think that's a real shame, and I'd like to know what you think about it too. Is it something you're surprised about? Is it something you think Sony should actually double down on? Or do you think the PSVR2 is dead in the water? Is it? I don't know. I think it's kind of hard to argue that this thing's really got a life in it still. Like I'm saying, there are VR games coming out and games that might be worth checking out as well, but in terms of like growing an actual marketplace and growing a user base, of this platform, they aren't doing enough to really entice us in. I mean, that's a little disappointing to be talking about in the 3rd year anniversary. There was a little bit of a hope in me that maybe they would just go, oh, by the way, here's like this and this, and maybe still down the line, maybe we will hear about things here or there. But as it stands, it's not looking great. So let me know what you're thinking about it down in the comments below. Sorry this has been a little bit rambly. I just felt sorry that the anniversary just come and gone without much fanfare. It deserves more than that. Yeah. Anyway, thanks for watching everyone. Like and subscribe if that's what you're into, and I'll catch you in the next one.